Hey, what's going on, guys? Banana156 here. Welcome to another video. Remember to subscribe, like, dislike, comment, do all that stuff. I do read all comments, so make sure to leave one. But yeah, let's get straight into the video. Yeah, and this video will be on labor unions and worker co-ops and why they are a necessity in our why they are a necessity for us right now. So in the thumbnail, I included a graph where it was U.S. workers, the amount of U.S. workers in unions, and it's been going down a lot because of the Republicans being extremely anti-union and trying to kill unions because they hurt profits and they actually give workers good conditions to work in. But yeah, and currently we have the worst wealth distribution we've had since the Depression, or since before the Depression, and it's just getting the wealth inequality is becoming more and more apparent with every year, and unions is one of the few ways where we can combat this. Also, with the amount of things like healthcare, stuff like that, like dental, vision, hearing, all that stuff that should be in healthcare that isn't covered, stuff like that can be bartered for in unions. And if we get unions strong again, that will effectively raise the minimum wage as well. Because in countries like Denmark, Finland, Sweden, all those countries, they have very strong unions, and even though their country doesn't have a minimum wage in place, still people like McDonald's are getting paid $22 an hour and get extensive benefits. Like they get a month of paid leave, they get paid, they get like several months of maternity leave, of paid maternity leave for father and mother, and it's just, they're great because of their unions, and this is the first step that we need to take in getting the workplace democratized. That's why unions are important, and we need unions. We need strong unions, and like the unions in the Amazon warehouse in Alabama. If they won, that would have shown. I really wish they did win because we need unions. But if they won, that would have shown Amazon workers across the country that yes, we can do it. We can unionize. We can do all this, and that could have made like almost every Amazon warehouse unionized in the next 5 to 10 years if they won. Now, even though they lost, that doesn't mean we can't stop trying. We got to keep going, and we have to push for unions constantly. So if you're like a worker, talk to your coworkers, talk to them about unionizing, talk about setting stuff up and having a vote on it or whatever. Start talking about it, because if you get unions, you can collectively bargain for things like dental care, vision care, hearing, better health care, just like more time off, more sick days, more holidays, more everything. You can barter for all of this stuff if we have unions, and make the working experience better for everyone, and you can also demand higher wages as well. And that will drop the wealth inequality. Now, unions aren't perfect, but they're the best solution that we have now. But that would drop the wealth inequality significantly. Maybe not as significantly as it should, but it will give the working class higher wages and better working conditions and more benefits. And that's great, and that's why we need unions. And but yeah, now worker co-ops. Now worker co-ops are like unions to the extreme. And there's a few worker co-ops in the U.S. I can't name them off the top of my head, but there's a few worker co-ops off the U.S. and worker co-ops are statistically more successful in their first 3 years, the most dangerous time to be a business, than any other structure of business. They also provide much better working conditions, much more benefits, and the worker morale is much higher. But worker co-op, now what is a worker co-op? A worker co-op is essentially democracy in the workplace. So the workers get to vote on things, and they get to vote on things, and they get to democratically decide what the company does, or what the warehouse does, or whatever they're working at does. this means that this is also a way this is also, I feel like, the most achievable way we can achieve socialism, because that is another, because workplace and democratizing the workplace is the best way to have the proletariat own the means of production. And if we shift our all business models to worker co-ops, that will eliminate the need for CEOs and the owner class, that will eliminate the owner class, and thus vastly reducing wealth inequality, and everyone has a much better, much more money, uh, much better conditions to work in, much better everything. And not only that, they actually they actually have a stake in where they're working. They're actually like the owners of their job. They own their job now. They get to vote on things, on what the company does. They get to they get to decide how they do their job. Like in worker co-ops, you're not told how to do your job. They just give you the task that needs to be done, and you find out however you want to do it. And so there's no like there's no managers that it has to be done a specific way. And not only, and you have a stake in the job, which I think is the most important part, because if people have a reason to have like something they're a part of now, other than just being like a cubicle, like just working in the cubicle and typing and sending emails all day, you actually get to decide what the company does now. You have a stake in the company, and you own part of the company now. And it's just great. And not only that, but worker co-ops give even better benefits than unions, because because the workers get to vote on everything. You think they're gonna vote for good stuff. They're gonna vote to give them all, like, if we don't have free healthcare, but if we don't have free healthcare in the country, they'll vote to give themselves really great healthcare. They'll vote to give themselves great dental care. They'll vote to give themselves great vision care. They'll vote to give themselves great hearing. They'll vote to give themselves a really great pension. They'll vote to give themselves a month of time off. They'll vote to do all this stuff. So that's why we need unions and worker co-ops. Also, I want to talk about how American society is just kind of trash when it comes to work. Because if you look in Europe, they get like a month off every year. Like one of my uncle's friends, he lives in France now, but he comes over and he just comes over and hangs out with us in August for like the whole month, because he gets the whole month off and he just hangs out over here. And like, why are we not like that? Why is it always you have to constantly be working? No, you got to take a break. And the thing where it's like we pretend we're built different because we're Americans. It's like, no, it just puts way too much stress on the general population, leads to a lower life expectancy, which we are starting to see now as the life expectancy is going down. It leads to more stress and more higher suicide rate. It leads to people just being sadder, overworked, stressed, and the population isn't happy, and they're just overworked and tired, and it's a recipe for disaster. You can't have people constantly working without a break, and that's why countries like France France for one, that's where my uncle's friend lives, but like the Nordic countries and other social democracies in Europe, they have a much higher freedom rate, a much higher happiness rating, a much higher everything rating than America, because they give their workers freedom to do what they want for a month. They give themselves freedom from stress. They give their workers freedom from being overworked. They give their workers freedom from all of these things. They give their workers freedom from being stressed about not being able to afford an ambulance ride to the hospital when you're like, grandpa has a heart attack. That's why we need strong unions and worker co-ops, and I think Europe is a great example of this, because they have really strong unions, and they have just better laws there too, but they have just really strong unions that allow the working population to just be a lot happier, a lot less stress-free, and just live better, longer lives than we live here, because here we have virtually no unions at this point, and it's just gone, and Americans work themselves to death. Like, you're working until you're like you're working until you're like 65, and the life expectancy is 70. It's like you work yourself to death basically. And then after that, depending on what job you worked, you might not get a good pension. You might not get a good retirement plan. You might not get that 401k because you were stuck working 3 minimum wage jobs your whole life or whatever. But yeah, that's why we need unions, co-ops, and almost a societal shift in a way away from overworking. But yeah, thank you all for watching. I enjoyed making this video. Remember to like, dislike, subscribe, comment. I do read all comments, so make sure to leave one. And yeah, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next